The summit between the US and Russia in Alaska is taking place at a location that symbolizes the intersection of East and West, quite literally. This venue holds historical significance for both nations, having served as a Cold War battleground characterized by missile defense systems, radar stations, and intelligence operations. As for whether the meeting between Trump and Putin will yield an agreement that brings peace to Ukraine over 3.5 years since the onset of the war, that remains uncertain. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy stated that Russian President Vladimir Putin is demanding Ukraine to relinquish control of the remaining 30% of the Donetsk region as part of a ceasefire agreement, a suggestion that Zelenskyy firmly dismissed. Meanwhile, Putin's men are on the rampage, and Russia has a chance to subjugate Ukraine. On the ground, Russian troops are advancing towards the significant strategic city of Pokrovsk. Moreover, leaders from the European Union have been excluded from the discussions between Trump and Putin. The prevailing concern among European nations is that if Putin achieves victory in Ukraine, he may turn his attention towards them next. Here's all you need to know. Zelenskyy stated that Putin aims to acquire the remaining 9,000 square kilometers of Donetsk, currently held by Kyiv, where some of the fiercest fighting is taking place as a component of a ceasefire arrangement. If this were to happen, it would effectively grant Russia nearly the entire Donbas region, which represents the eastern industrial core of Ukraine that Putin has desired for a long time. In September 2022, Russia officially annexed Donetsk and Luhansk, the two administrative oblasts that comprise Ukraine's Donbas region. Moscow claims that these areas are now incorporated into the Russian Federation. However, Ukrainians contest this annexation, maintaining control over parts of the region. Zelenskyy revealed that he became aware of Russia's stance following a conversation with Trump and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, who had just concluded a bilateral meeting with Putin. Witkoff informed Zelenskyy that Russia was open to ending the conflict, suggesting that both parties should consider making territorial concessions. The call also included several European partners. Zelenskyy emphasized that Ukraine would not retreat from the territories it currently holds, asserting that such action would be unconstitutional and risk paving the way for a future invasion by Russia. He pointed out diplomatic discussions aimed at resolving the war have not addressed security assurances for Ukraine to guard against any future Russian hostility, and he noted that the meeting formats under consideration exclude European involvement, both of which are critical demands from Kyiv. At the same time, Russia seems to be on the verge of capturing Pokrovsk, a significant city in the Donetsk area. Should Ukraine lose Pokrovsk, it would grant Russia a crucial win just before the summit. This loss would further hinder Ukraine's supply routes to the Donetsk region, which has become the primary focus of the Kremlin's military operations. With Russia concentrating its military efforts on the Donbas area, let's now take a look at battlefield dynamics. Ukraine is on the back foot. The effectiveness of Russia's operations in Donbas can largely be attributed to its historical strengths in weaponry and troop availability. Russia's offensive has involved strategic adjustments, such as the successful deployment of glide bombs against Ukrainian defensive structures. Russian commanders have capitalized on the weaknesses in Ukrainian defenses, particularly the inadequate fortifications along the front lines. Simultaneously, Ukraine is facing shortages in personnel, a situation exacerbated by poor management of mobilization strategies. Analysts suggest that Moscow's achievements in the Donbas are progressively eroding the morale of the Ukrainian populace. Trump has expressed a desire to gauge Putin's commitment to concluding the war, which has now entered its fourth year. However, the US president has let down European allies by indicating that Ukraine may need to relinquish certain territories currently occupied by Russia. Europeans in Ukraine are apprehensive that Putin, who has initiated the largest ground conflict in Europe since 1945 and leveraged Russia's energy dominance, may achieve advantageous concessions and delineate the framework of a peace agreement without their involvement. The apparent reintegration of Putin into the global stage by Trump, a figure shunned in much of Europe, has caused concern among Ukraine's supporters. For certain European countries, the conflict transcends Russia's quest for territorial gains. It centers around Putin's ambition to dominate Ukraine, potentially enabling him to pose threats to other regions of the continent.